lane.
Hey, it's time for Bring It In, True Hoops, little Zoom from quarantine show. And I'm just in the middle of a really stupid endeavor, which is like sort of like jostling with legal. Like, don't jostle with legal. Legal wins every time.
I'm not doing it. Let's be clear here.
All right. So, dude, pretty profound. Honestly, in a little bit of a way, I have to admit, late last night, I was like, oh, the NBA season, the WNBA season ended last night. The NBA season's kind of over now, too, right? Like, it's closing time. You agree?
Well, if you told me that Anthony Davis definitely won't get hurt the next game or two, right? And LeBron's not going to get hurt, it seems to me. Then probably it's at some point the Lakers are going to win one of the next 3 games or the better team. So yeah.
Closing. Okay. So we've talked, we have observed, we have compared notes, and we prepared some thoughts about this moment of the season. And we'll go in a sort of organized fashion because everything on the show is extremely organized, David. Why don't you begin?
So I just was saying to you before the show on a phone call about watching Anthony Davis last night do the things he does throughout the game, right? Throughout the series, in the regular season, the playoffs, and then he makes the big 3 to end the game, but completely dominates Miami's offense on many possessions from both the perimeter. Very important point here that I'm going to get to in a second, but just to lead off, he does it from the perimeter, guarding guards. Jimmy Butler's a guard, basically, just in a 6'9" body, and in the paint at the rim, right? And there's just, like, we've almost seen no one ever do that. That could also make threes and hit jump shots and race the court and catch in traffic and dunk and score. And I thought to myself, and I texted with an NBA executive today about it, like, given where he is right now as a player, forget about career comparisons. But if you were doing a draft based on right now, where would he go in that draft? It's very, very, very high. He's one of the best players of all time. At his peak, he's one of the best players of all time. We could argue, who you would take ahead of him. That all depends on the rule change and time, whatever. But in this day and age, based on, in fact, this executive made a great point to me. The fact that he has to play on the perimeter so much defensively and can do it allows him to exhibit talents that we wouldn't otherwise maybe know if he played 25 years ago and just lived in the paint. It's a brilliant point. He's one of the best players I've ever seen play, ever. Yeah.
That's nice. I was a little bit hurt in my throat when he fell down for maybe, I'm not even kidding, the 8th or 9th time in the game. And one, he took quite a long time getting up and he was holding his leg. Of course, gave me PTSD from last year's finals when, this season we had without Kevin Durant, without Kyrie Irving, without Steph Curry, without, this is the argument for better management, better season organization, like more body friendly stuff, right? So in the finals, we see all the signs. I won't hit you over the head with the 17th recap of the sports science, but like a player who falls down a lot and isn't running as fast, I can't jump as high, is a player who's at profoundly elevated risk of injury. And that's why we had so many injuries in the finals, right? We were wearing them down. This every other day thing has been crap. So to me, I was like, oh, we dodged a bullet there. You open the show saying, like, as long as Anthony Davis doesn't get hurt, like, it's a real worry, right? It's a real worry that he's running around like a warrior, doing everything. And what a bummer that we can't let him rest sufficiently before he does it again. Anyway, so to me, I just felt like we're watching nowhere near the best basketball of the year right now because these players are exhausted by the schedule.
Right.
And by the ridiculous short rotations. Like, it's crazy to me. It is so crazy to me. At one point, maybe like the only substitution I remember in the fourth quarter was Alex Caruso came out. I'm like, he wasn't tired. Everybody else is tired, but that guy's fine. Anyway, there you go. Anthony Davis, fingers crossed for you, buddy.
I want to pick up on that point before we go to the next one. So just relating the two things we just talked about. So the one reason why Davis is falling down so much, and there's many, or there's a few anyway, is he's 7 feet tall. So his center of gravity is very tall, right? Very high. And he is competing at maximum effort. If you remember the late game play where he and Rondo collide which prevents them from getting the rebound. The ball goes to Jay Crowder, makes a big three to cut it back to 4.
My dogs are coming.
Oh, but that happened because Anthony Davis wasn't going to trust that Rondo would get it, which is exactly what Davis should be doing. The ball is mine. I'm going to get it. And they collided. And the same play when he collided with Caruso, that was an effort collision. He's having, as we talked about in my first thing, he's guarding so much more space than like Rasheed Wallace did or Shaq or all these great big men. Rasheed is not as good as the others, but still was a very good player who normally they ran rim to rim and kind of hung around the paint. Davis is all over the place, playing a maximum effort at 7 feet tall. And the little dude scurrying around all over him, he's going to fall down sometimes, which is scary. It's bad, right? And so just to further your point, we need to be conscious of the fact that the game has changed. There's a lot more space that they're playing on, although ironically, go watch the Warriors games from last year and then watch how people are defending the Heat and the Lakers this year. The Lakers are having to extend a little bit more on Duncan and Tyler. The Lakers, 5 guys pretty much have a foot in the paint when you're defending them, right? This ain't guarding Steph and Clay, KD. But still, Davis is all over the place. And so we have to protect our athletes even more because they are covering that much more. They're running more. They're racing more. They're having to slide more because of the way the game is played now. That's having an impact that I don't think the NBA has typically thought about. We're asking our big men to do much, much more, which is putting them much more at risk for injury.
For sure. And, remember a couple of things. When Usain Bolt takes off for the 100-meter run, 100% effort is very safe for him because it's going to last about 10 seconds, right? He can do that about 10 minutes a week. Humans can. The finest tuned humans can do that about 10 minutes a week of like extreme going hard. Once you get to the 11th minute in a week, he'll slow down. And at the same time he's slowing down, his risk of injury will go up exponentially with each additional minute, right? So to me, the big thing about Anthony Davis here, or every player, is not so much, it's wonderful that he is committing that effort to his team. It's terrible the league's asking him to do it in a way that's making his injuries go up exponentially, right? And in terms of how it feels, they say, like, I'm set here at games with sports scientists sitting right here telling me this, like, the first 5 minutes, you run around and you don't feel like you're using any effort at all. Your injury risk is very low in those 5 minutes. The 6th minute, and this varies per person, but typically, you feel like, okay, now's the first time I'm starting to do a little conversation with myself about, that's I'm feeling that, right? That's when your injury risk starts going up, like first quarter, right? First quarter in November, right? Now it's like all these months since, right? It just goes up and up, right? Every time you don't properly fully recover, you're just a little bit diminished. And so this is where Anthony Davis in the first quarter is running faster, jumping higher than Davis in the fourth quarter, and that difference is bad. And Anthony Davis, when next season resumes, will be running and jumping a lot faster and higher. And that's how we want him. He could play, we could organize a schedule. He would play almost his whole career in that space, right? Where he's like feeling fresh as hell. And they reduced injuries 30% in Australian rules football by doing just exactly this.
Right. Well, Australian rules football, so that is more like basketball, as opposed to evaluating athletes in a vacuum where you're talking about that 10 minutes of maximum effort by themselves. There's 10 of those dudes doing it at the same time very often, right? So there's a bunch of so think of a pinball machine with 10 balls pinging all over each other, all over the place. There was 2 plays late in the game yesterday. The Lakers were running late in late in the fourth quarter. Rondo hits LeBron and then does what we call he actually looks like he's running what we call a shuffle cut, and then he sets it's called a flex screen for Anthony Davis to come kind of like around to the baseline to get a layup. The Heat defended fine. Then Davis comes up to set a ball screen for LeBron, who's being guarded by Jimmy Butler. This happened 2 times late in the game yesterday. And both times I thought of it, the first time was a little more pronounced. So AD lifts up to go set a screen on Jimmy Butler. And he goes, hits him pretty hard. And JB is a brick wall. And you could see Davis like, oof. Like just for a brief millisecond, I promise you, if you ask if a reporter asked AD, hey, do you remember? Tell me honestly, and he was on a truth serum. He couldn't lie. Do you remember setting that screen on Jimmy Butler? Both times he would say, "Oh hell yes," because he felt it. And that's how most NBA bodies are. They're not all Jimmy Butler bodies, obviously, but and I remember asking Bobby Hurley Jr. about what it was like playing against John Stockton when they did the Dream Team practice versus the College All-Stars in out west. And I asked about Stockton, and he said he was the strongest player I ever played against. Of course, he was a man, and Bobby was still in college. I said, "What do you mean?" He said to me, he was piano wire strong. And that was John Stockton, right? Alex Caruso, piano wire strong. Like, there's nothing soft about that dude. AD and Jimmy Butler are piano wire on steroids. They're huge, and they're smashing bodies at maximum effort for more than 10 minutes. This is your point, is bad things are going to happen with all that running and racing and smashing, 10 pinballs bouncing all over the place. Yeah. Like, that's why guys get hurt playing basketball. It's why I don't have any competition in my gym. If you're going to get hurt, it's strictly because you versus the ground versus air versus physics. There'll be no other bodies involved.
There are different kinds of fatigue, right? There's like your sort of blood sugar, your sort of sleep, and there's neurological fatigue, right? So some of these, like open court, no one touches you injuries are still like fatigue induced, right? Because you're not placing your foot with the same, if your foot's ordinarily on the ground for a very infinitesimal amount of time, when you're tired, it might be a lot longer. Muscles up. Now you're not jumping and moving and cutting the way that you practice, right? Until you get injured from that. Like that, or you're not recognizing the colliding player, right, and getting out of the way in the same time, right? All that's fatigue. All those go up with fatigue, right? It's like, we know this. We talked about this.
Okay.
All right. You have a rule change that's going to piss off James Harden.
Yeah. So, hey, Judy, you can go ahead and play that video, the Olynyk Markieff Morris. This is Henry. You brought this up. I didn't, on our morning talk, where you rightfully point out that we're watching when Markieff Morris leans left to draw the foul from Kelly Olynyk on the 3-point shot after he faked him. And the first thing I said to Henry about it is, Rick Barry used to call this back in the 70s and 80s, joining the Paratroopers Club. You shouldn't jump for these fakes. You're already forcing a bad shot to begin with. Iguodala doesn't ever foul this. He does some pretty genius stuff. I'm actually keep coaching my players on what to do. But Olynyk jumps. The problem is, in theory and in practice, he does hit a shooter, and that's a foul as the rules state. But I think there should be a rule change where it's a violation if the offensive player creates the contact. It's a violation, not a free throw, and not a foul. If it's flagrant contact, it should be a foul. In other words, if it draws some kind of potential injury, it's a foul on the offense. And they call that now sometimes. That particular play, Olynyk wasn't in danger of anything other than some body contact. I think it should be a violation. I do not think we should be rewarding offensive players for shooting a shot outside their regular shooting motion on a player that has jumped in the air. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I love free throws. I like the 1-for-2 G League rules. I like less break in between possessions. I didn't think I'd like it, but I really did. But I know viewers in general don't want to watch free throws. So we should have less of them. And yet we still have to call fouls when they're fouls. This is a play where the offense generated all the contact. Literally, Olynyk avoided them. So it's like the kick out. If we're going to call the kick out something with your legs, we should be doing the same thing with your upper body. Because no one is shooting the ball leaning halfway over their left foot when they're right-handed. It's a bad play. We should be getting rid of it.
There's a difference between basketball and NBA basketball, right? And so in your pickup game,
right.
Like the defender's flying past you, like everybody knows how there's the rhythm of the game, right? You just pause for a second. Like the guy's going out of the play, leaving you open, which is what you would ordinarily want in basketball, right? But in the NBA game, I mean, one of the reasons I got stuck on this play was Markieff got the greatest reward of the sport, right? Three free throws is the big prize.
Yeah.
That's the Mac Daddy of like ding ding ding. They give you the big bear at the carnival, right? Like and it was pivotal. It was absolutely pivotal to this game. And it's just weird that he got it because here came Kelly Olynyk through the air. There were other better angles of slow-mo where he's like, "Oh, I'm trying to avoid you," and you can see
happens all the time.
Like, well, you're not gonna like boop, just like rams into him. And Markieff gets the prize. Like it's just a little much. It's a little. And I'll go even further and say I don't think you can be an elite scorer in the NBA without being very practiced at that. Like
we practice in our gym every day.
Yeah.
Practice that every day.
Yeah.
Not
That's
so
how you
much
go
to
from
lean
being
in
like,
that. We don't practice the lean in that egregiously,
yeah.
but we do practice get him up in the air, draw the foul. So we
Yeah.
work on that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally daily.
It's a little weird. Like if you want to be, I don't know, who's a good, whatever promising, 21, 23-year-old shooter scorer in the NBA right now, and you want to become like an all-star, this is what you have to really hone, right? This is your summer activity, right?
Right. Tyler Hero needs to add this to his game.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Blue Door.
You're up.
Okay. Speaking of Tyler Hero, they say on the broadcast, Tyler Hero, like Mark Jackson was like, "Oh, is he really only 21?" And it's like, man, we've been talking about this all finals. Mark, where have you been? He's 20 years old. Anyway.
Yeah, Mike Breen said, "Not yet."
Yeah, exactly. Mike Breen kind of smoothed it over, but he's 20 years old, and so the coaches, right? This is Jeff Van Gundy, Mark Jackson, go with the theory that this is a miracle that a 20-year-old or maybe we think he's 21 is very good at basketball. And at the beginning of this year, we did a preview with all these machine learning experts taking plus minus data basically and predicting who was going to be good this year. And it's incontrovertible in the plus minus data, that's important, that people peak about 25 years old. If you're over 25 years old, the computer does not predict based on historical trends that you will improve. Like you probably decline. And it practically everybody has in your permanent minus production, right? It's not really plus minus, it's actually like a box plus minus, so it factors in some box score stats. But coaches never talk about it that way, right? Because Tyler Hero aged people don't do the things coaches know about, right? Like they're in the wrong place. They went around Zach Lowe with this thing years ago, which for some reason I just love, which was about they had two big men. The Raptors had two big men at that time, and the coaches thought that I forget who it was now, did everything right, and Jonas Valanciunas, who was at that age, like 21, did everything wrong. But in the plus minus stats, they were a way better defensive team with Valanciunas out there. So like the coaches were out of control. The coaches were sidelined, but the basketball was good, right? And so this is where like it's no more surprising that a 20-year-old is good at NBA basketball than a 29-year-old or a 30-year-old. But we're just used to this idea that like, oh, he learned what the coaches want and then he got better and now he's good. But like, I think that I think we might have a lot of really good 20-year-olds if they got the ball in these moments in these games. It's just not a thing that commonly happens. Those minutes and touches come when you've earned them when you're older.
I would I would further your argument with the idea that coaching, I know you know this, really makes a difference. Kevin Knox would not be good, unfortunately, or RJ Barrett, really any Knicks player in a game last night. Sorry, Knicks fans. Tyler Hero has been expertly coached. There's no doubt about it. And players tend to be really dumb when they're young and they get smart when they get older, but less athletic. And this is an athletic sport. So that's the balance. Where LeBron is able to do what he's able to do is he has that physical advantage. His mental game, Jordan said the same thing. As his physical gifts started leaving, his mental gifts started getting sharper and sharper. That happens from lots of playing time, lots of reference points, lots of experiences. There's lots of old coaches who just won't play young players, and like
it's a little bit of a myth, right? Like the super value of that is undeniable. But if you just look at who's on the court when their team plays well, it's not old players. Like it's also just overrated.
It's the rare old player that is. First of all, they still have to be able to move. Like LeBron can really move. There aren't many that, there's lots of veteran players that really aren't that smart. They're smarter than they used to be. They're still not LeBron James. I said this from day one, Pop allowing Kawhi to start and play a lot on that team. OKC with what they've done with Shai Gilgeous, the Clippers did this too. There's old school coaches that are probably not, there's probably not many coaches now but 5 years ago there was, and 10 years ago there was, that just wouldn't have played Shai Gilgeous. 19 years old and skinny and he can't play. Yeah, he can. Yeah, I've seen that.
Well, or how do we rate Tyler Hero at the beginning of the year, the first few weeks? He was like an interesting rookie, right? Like he wasn't the MVP of the class, but he was like there are many players every year in the range of production he was week one. right?
Right.
But they built something out of this, right? Like something, royal jelly and all that. You know about this.
And he's super talented. Yeah, and he's very talented. Yeah, the Heat are because of what they have been, right? They've created this, and I mean, come on, Duncan Robinson uh, doesn't play for 28 teams in the NBA because they just can't see it.
Right.
And the Heat, I mean, again, they didn't draft him and they didn't pay him a guaranteed deal. They gave him a two-way deal last year, but no one else did that.
Yeah.
So they sowed, and now they're reaping what they've sowed, right? And this is what the best franchises do all the time, right? This is why Sam Presti is still trying to get a first-round pick now for Chris Paul. That's what the rumor is now. After getting everyone else's first-round picks for the next 10 years, he is betting on their ability to develop more Shai Gilgeouses.
It's so many. They don't even have roster spots for all those picks.
Right. Well, guess what? This is going to feed them for a generation.
Oh yeah, no,
they're going to continue to develop and trade, and those that matriculate at the very top. I mean, they're going. If you were picking a stock, short term, I don't think you'd pick OKC, but medium term, long term, you go heavily on them.
Oh, 100%. They're going to. I mean, really other interpretation what's happening right now is they don't want to pay Chris Paul, and if they're going to continue to want to just take dollars out of the team, then I would bet a little lower. That's another reason you go for draft picks all the time, right? LeBron.
Yeah. So LeBron in the first half had 5 turnovers after having 8 the last game, and they were head scratchers. They were just, again, you would have thought if you blurred LeBron and you watched it, you would think it was a rookie.
LeBlurry.
Like, what is going on? These are the worst turnovers I've ever seen. I mean, outrageous turnovers. And what I think, and this is just a theory that I have, is he knows he can't do this for 48 minutes, and he's brilliant, and so he's right. And he knows he needs to be there in the end. And so he's just hesitant, right? He's not decisive. Well, this is one reason why you turn the ball over, is a lack of decisiveness. And so but it's just so weird to see LeBron not being decisive. Not as weird to see players that don't really are that good turn the ball over because they're afraid to be decisive because they stink. LeBron doesn't stink. We know what he can do. We saw the second half. No surprise, my point is, that he has a great second half, monstrous second half, and just 1 turnover. Like when he split the screen late in the game to get an out. I mean, I don't know which is better. The finish was extraordinary. It barely got in, but he was, they grabbed him by the arm and they're yanking him down. I don't know how he made it. That is so much strength. But the splitting of the screen like he was 23 years old, just shooting out like Walter Payton up the middle. This is for us old timers. Like, my goodness, he didn't do that in the first half.
No.
Like, never, right? And so he needs to clean that up. Having the extra day of rest now for Friday. I mean, I think it's not hard to see what I saw, which is that indecisiveness led to really, really bad plays. And he might say, fuck it. I'm going to bring everything I got, knowing that I have a game in hand, just like he did against Denver. Remember, in game 5 against Denver, he had that 30-plus point triple-dub, I think it was, because he knew he had game 6 to recover, then to win game 7. And in his mind, I think we're going to see the best 48 minutes he could bring to this next game because he's got an extra day and he's got a game in hand if he needs it.
David, can you hear my dog snoring?
Nope.
She walks in here and just like, anyway.
I'm so old. Your dog could be in my room. I'm not sure I'd hear it. My wife and I laugh about this all the time.
Oh, okay. So
she thinks I'm just being a jackass, but really, I just don't think I hear very well. Remind me to tell you a funny story with that about my dad and jackassery and not hearing, but I can save that for later.
So you teach, to your point here, you taught us when we were a bunch of media dorks in your gym in Florida to play at 5 different speeds.
Yeah.
Right. And this is brilliant because we think of basketball as like, oh, I'm going to outrun you to this point. But no, you just have to not be where the defender is. You don't have to be faster than them. And so to me, this was LeBron in the first half was like, let's just use 3 gears, which is a weird new set of decisions for him, right? This is not basketball as he's normally played it.
No, and he's done this a few times. I think he was doing he's doing better in the first half. When the seedings, when the playoffs first started, he was not engaging in first quarters. And then it became, okay, I'm going to really play better in the first quarter, in the first half, because they need me. And then I thought he was letting us foot off the gas. We showed the stats. I mean, he just wasn't doing well in the second half. And he's kind of gone back and forth a little bit now. Last night was very obvious. The guy we saw in the first half just wasn't that guy in the second half. He was LeBron James. And the combination of him and AD and a few other nice plays here and there from other players like KCP was enough. And Rondo had a nice layup, and I think Markieff made a three. But it was, that duo has been what we wrote it would be on June 12th, the best duo, which can overcome any team. Although, I'll be honest, if Dragic is healthy and Bam is fully healthy, although he was pretty healthy last night, he didn't play great. I don't know if the Lakers would win the championship. I would have favored them, but it would have been an even better game, and the games are amazing now. But I thought back in June that duo was going to be better than anything a team could put together to beat them. And so far, we're one game away from that being right.
Okay. I did a fun thing. I fully recommend this to anyone. Kyle Kuzma's been, he had a good game last game, but all in all, this season, the idea was he was going to be like their clear number 3 and balanced against, I have certain, anxieties about LeBron trusting younger players and, players who don't do exactly what he wants, and they don't stay in the right place and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, well, what's happening to Kyle Kuzma? Like, why is he, I don't think he scored 20 points. Well, we should
not in the play, hasn't.
Right?
No.
I'm like, well, why not? So just, I managed to keep the mental discipline to just watch Kyle Kuzma for, I think, about 15 minutes of gameplay, which was enlightening. About maybe, I don't know, 9 minutes in, I was like, he hasn't touched the ball. He got a rebound, but mostly he plays tough D. He's active. It really made me like Kyle Kuzma watching him. And then he runs to like the corner, the wing, and then someone tells him to move. And he's like, okay, I'll go over here. And then, he hit a 3, and then they immediately gave him the ball again with the idea that like, oh, like after hitting a 3, he might be capable of touching the ball again. But like, I don't think he dribbled the entire time I was watching him. It just struck me, Royal Jelly, Tyler Hero, all that kind of stuff. Like, we have no idea what Kyle Kuzma can do. And we're not going to find out as long as he's playing on this team, right? Like I know the regular season was a little different, but this is not a way to explore the limits of your abilities.
No, in fact, as I was saying to you before, I think that the Lakers have they need to make some adjustments that I think are very obvious, because they've always got guys in the corner. Corners are always filled, and the Heat are over helping. They're over helping. They would not be doing this if that was Curry and Clay or KD.
Right.
Let's just be clear. They'd be hugging those guys the way Lakers are hugging Duncan and Hero. So they're over helping. And then
there, you mean?
From the corner.
Yeah.
And clogging up on pick and rolls or drives. I think the Lakers need to be not filling the corners and lifting up wing and higher to make it much harder to help. The reason why they're not is LeBron wants more space up top. That's 100% why it's happening. And they only scored 34 paint points yesterday, and they played much better. They played with much more force, much more patience. We'll probably get into that. But still, it's because the Heat are clogging the paint so much. So ask me, if the question's asked, why the Lakers lose game 5, the answer is going to be, if we eliminate injury, which, you never know, they shot poorly. And the reason why that'll happen is they're not going to be able to get enough shots in the paint because it's so clogged. They took 39 threes yesterday, which is lower than they did games 2 and 3, as I read about the other day or yesterday. But it's still a lot of threes, 39 for the Lakers, who averaged 31 in the playoffs in the regular season until now. They don't have a choice. They're clogging that paint up so much. So to me, by lifting up a little bit and running some different actions, including with Rondo, not just LeBron, I think they would get more shots in the paint, because it's harder to help at the rim when you have them running backwards as opposed to just sideways. Think about the corner. You're coming straight in. If you're on the wing, you got to go at an angle to get to the rim that's longer, and it's harder. So I think the Lakers can make some adjustments, what we call lift their offense up, and the space can be worse up top. It'll be much better down low.
You think LeBron will go for that? What's your okay? You're Frank Vogel, and you have to convince LeBron this is what you're going to do. What do you say?
I would say, well, first of all, I would do it when LeBron's not in the game.
Okay, smart. That's smart.
Yeah. And the second thing I would say is, LeBron, they can't guard you in the paint, but if you're coming from 25 feet, they can bring more help in. And yes, you can kick out like you're doing, but we need to get more baskets in the paint and not depend on making 35% from the field, which is what they've been making, which is great, but they could shoot 22% too, which is what they shot in their first 3 losses in the postseason prior to the Miami loss in game 3. They were at 22% from 3 in those 3 games. So we know it's possible.
This is a interesting little what you're saying, which I'm learning for the first time today about that little extra distance makes a big difference, right? And the angle is also an argument for widening the court, right? I mean, in terms of
I thought about that too.
Yeah,
I thought about that last night, actually, Henry. It's funny you say that. The court. I mean, I've never ever thought this before. I don't know why I'm thinking this now. It's not like I've just watched basketball for the first time in this playoffs, right?
Yeah.
But I did think that last night. I swear to you that the court's too small.
It is.
And that's why AD's falling around so much.
Yeah.
The pinballs are hitting each other too much. There's just we're playing at such a big space, but in terms of compared to what they used to, but the space hasn't changed at all from the court. We do need to widen it. There's just not enough room for how we're playing now. Everyone's weaponized from 3, and it used to be, I remember, I want to bet in college. You're going to laugh at this. I want to bet in college when some idiot friend of mine, associate of mine, frat brother of mine, told me there's no
oh, he just got demoted from friend.
Not the biggest fan of this guy. He bet, I don't remember what the bet was, that Magic Johnson did not play point guard in high school. He couldn't, he was my favorite player. I know damn well he played point guard in high school, but it was just impossible to imagine 6'9" point guard. Right, this was 1983, my freshman year of college. I won the bet. Magic did play point guard. Now on a post-grad team that I help out locally, our point guard is a very athletic, long, 6'5" kid who teamed with Kevin Knox. He started as a freshman. Knox was a senior here in Tampa, and he's pretty much average size. Yeah, 6'5", really athletic. He's playing post-grad because he didn't get Division I scholarship he should have had because his coach is lazy. He'll get one now for sure, because I'm involved and I know how freaking good this player. He's a high major player, but he's just a 6'5" point guard. My son is 6'3". He's the second smallest kid in Florida State's team.
Yeah.
But we're the third smallest kid. And he's constantly guarding 6'5" to 6'8", 6'9" included at point guard. The game is all these really tall, long, athletic guys that play all 5 positions. And then the other thing, and you're going to laugh at this, the PJ Tuckers of the world and Chuck Hayes before him. PJ Tucker has made it more fashionable to be the 6'6" wide body dude and can get away playing the 4-5 if you're long. All right, so now we're going to add some 6'5" with a 7-foot wingspan guys too.
Yeah.
Like, we're just asking for bone crushing collisions now. Yeah. We need to give these guys more space. It's like having a bunch of everyone driving a Humvee on a 2-lane highway going 80 miles an hour. There's some bad accidents going to occur on that highway.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't like so right now it makes a lot of sense to put a lot of your offense in the corners, but it's this narrow little patch where everyone's nervous about stepping out of bounds.
Right? Okay, and do every game in this playoffs with the guys stepping out of bounds.
These are precise athletes who are just not quite. And to me, like, it's just more fun. Think about a 3-point shooter in the middle and how freely they can fake or whatever, all the things they can do. And like, we just want to empower them to play basketball all the way around the 3-point line, not just in the corner. You have to like put your feet very carefully and then stop and then, just shoot or not shoot. And if you're going to drive, don't take that step back and all, anyway.
You remember my assistant at IMG, Mike Moreau, very, very brilliant guy, long time, play development coach before that, a big time high school coach. Mike did a genius thing when we would get rookies to come in, Dewan Blair, Drew Holiday, Earl Clark, Nick Kalathis, all these great players when I was at IMG. He would take them on a tour of the NBA 3-point line. It was very cute, but so smart. And you had to get comfortable in the corners because these guys are, I wear a size 12, 13 in basketball shoes. These guys are typically wearing, 12, 13, 14, 15, right? And there's not a lot of room in that corner, right? No. A lot of players do what we call take a negative step or they split their feet. That's a travel. That's a travel. It's also stepping out of bounds in the corner.
So let me explain this really fast. So David did this thing where like we, the dorky media, would catch the ball and then go to make a move to drive, and he would put like an empty soda can behind like
Your
your
right foot.
trailing heel, right?
Yeah.
And if you knock the soda can over, what you're doing is a common thing, which is you're taking a negative. If you're stepping backward to go forward, it doesn't get you there faster. It's a bad habit anyway. But
Yeah, actually, the reason why you do it is physics. If I used to tell you guys this, if you give you a bucket of water and I tell you to throw it forward, you're going to go backwards first, right? It's very hard to load with a bucket of water. But if you started out back here, you could just throw it. So the idea is to load up before you make your move, which is what we coach, bend get your hips down, your knees bent, whatever. So these guys are splitting their feet from the corner. That's out of bounds every time.
Yeah.
If in the middle, like you're talking about, is not. So yeah, I think they needed. I think, like I said, it's very rare that I'm thinking during a game what you just said, but that's exactly what I thought. Is God, they're just so cramped in there. Yeah. And this isn't even the Warriors. This isn't a bunch of great 3-point shooters out there. They're fine. Other than Duncan Robinson, there's no one shooting in this series that gives you the feeling you're watching Steph or Clay or KD. There just isn't.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know what Tyler Hero is shooting from 3, but he's not those guys. Duncan Robinson is different. Even though he's not shooting great, we know what he can do. And yet it's just cramped. Yeah. That's something that should be looked into is making the game more beautiful. The defense won't like it. The more space you have, the harder it's the defense to play.
And just to recap, you're probably thinking in your head, oh, well, it'll cost them money because it costs them seats. But we've done this pretty sophisticated analysis. Number one, I think at the top time we did this, every single arena has hockey, or is hockey can accommodate hockey. There is room, is the point. The hockey rink is much bigger than the NBA court, so there is that width in every single NBA arena. And if you think about it, it took me a while to process this, but now I'm on board. What you're doing is you're adding courtside seats. So however many seats there are across the baseline, there are now 4 more, 8 more, 10 more, 20 more, whatever the number is. Those are many thousands a game at the cost of removing the back row, right? You're going to have one less row at the back. It's a good trade. Those seats at the back in some arenas don't sell at all. Otherwise, they sell for $10. So I think that's, I don't think there's a money reason not to do it. I think it's just a tradition, right? It's because people make fun of owners for changing.
I think you're exactly right. And I also think that we don't need to lengthen the court. We need to widen it. So strictly widen it. Yeah. There's like 3 rows of bench seats on the court. There's plenty they can do. And if we're trying to create a better product, it's going to end up paying for itself in various revenue streams anyway.
I also think, to be honest, it wouldn't be the worst thing to go a little deeper. If nothing else, to keep all of the traffic. Like right now in the bubble, I'm really enjoying the lack of injuries from hitting people sitting baseline or
think about that all the time.
Right? Like if you made the court bigger, it would guarantee there wouldn't be people sitting there, walking there, serving drinks there, etc.
I do. I think about that all the time. Yeah, you're right. Let me see if we're missing here. All right. So Caruso on Tyler Hero was the combination bloodhound pit bull that I've been talking about recently, just all over him. So he sniffed out everything Tyler wanted to do, and he brought an attitude. You're a pit bull owner, you know what I mean. That Tyler Hero was.
I don't know. This one's more of a snoring dog, but yeah, I get the concept. Yeah.
Unless you're another dog, right?
Other dogs are like, no, even then, she's a chicken. This one's literally like a bunny rabbit.
Okay.
But yeah, I get your point.
I like pit bulls just fine. So, but Tyler Hero is not going to send Alex Caruso a Christmas card. I can tell you that. He is going forward to playing everybody else next year. Yeah. Caruso is all over him. And he came out of the game in the fourth quarter, and I thought, he's locking up one of the few guys that can create his own shot. The Butler can't do it because AD's on him. So now it's Tyler Hero's turn. He can't do it because AC's on him. And so why would you want to bring in KCP, who, by the way, has been very good defensively too?
Great game. Yeah.
Very impressed with KCP defensively all series. And I thought it was a mistake. And then he hits the 3 and the layup 2 on Duncan Robinson. Vogel outcoached me. Great. I wouldn't have done it so quickly. I like knowing that Although I was been happy for Miami to win. If I'm a Laker fan, I like knowing that we're locking up their two best offensive shot creators right now. But credit to Alex Caruso and the Lakers bench players and the non-dynamic duo guys. Like, it does take a team. It's always been the case. You can't just do it with two guys. Anthony Davis, LeBron James would have won 0 series had these other guys not done it. They're not asked to do as much, but they still have to perform, and they're performing to the level that they needed to, more or less. It's something that I think we've been writing about, the smash mouth, physical. These are last night, second half, were the Lakers defensive players that you saw in the Portland series. They just weren't going to give an inch, and ultra competitive, rebounded with fervor. They're going to be deserving champions if they get it, and deserve to be respected. They're a hell of a team.
And look, the coaching hire was like lampooned. The hiring process, right? They had so many steps and so many missteps, and they end up with Frank Vogel, and that was at the time when like there were just peak drama. The Lakers organization with Magic Johnson had wandered off and down the loading dock, but it was a good hire. Like,
I think it won him a championship. That doesn't mean someone else couldn't have, but this was the way I think to do it, given LeBron's inability to play the way he did 5 years ago. No one's any different. He's astounding, amazing, everything else, but he can't do what he did 5 years ago or whatever. They had to do it with defense, and I think they should have.
Because they had to do it with like minimum players too. Like,
right, for sure. Right. Yeah. This is what I mean.
Yeah.
So you got to rely on those guys offensively, and then also help AD grow this defensive player. He's. I told you this before. The way he moves his feet, the way he blocks shots, the way he defends space, his hand-eye coordination at bothering shooters and deflecting, it's all of it. He's a nightmare. He's Andre Iguodala plus 6 inches.
Yeah.
Right? In his prime athletically, my goodness, it's like Jimmy Butler's never seen anything like that before. Mm-hmm. And LeBron was good against Jimmy before that, but AD's another level, just taller.
Yeah. All right, so my last point of our organized portion of the show is so we've talked a lot about Giannis, and you have been very convincing that he should shoot threes to make the whole offense work, right? To create the spacing for his teammates to do things, to make passing angles, and also to get better at shooting threes. That alarm bells went off a little bit when the stat was repeated again and again that Jimmy Butler had, like, it was the only 40-point game. Very few people have done it without threes in the finals. But in my head, I'm like, but that's not better. It's maybe rarer. But if he were, and he has shot threes in his life, he has not been shooting threes in these finals. And part of me is like, there could be a cost for that, because now it's a little bit more they can sag back a little bit. They know where he wants to score, just like all the honest conversations. Then last night, you remember the play, I'm sure, very clearly, but he cleverly used a pick and roll to get a corner three, which you don't see very often, but he pretty much had like that short three and missed it. But I was like, of course he missed it. He hasn't shot one in a month. But part of me is like, should we? Jimmy's been, unbelievable. I was debating to you earlier that you could make the case he should be the MVP of the finals even if they lose. But should he have been shooting threes a little more?
Yeah, so I want to get to the MVP debate because I think Devin or someone asked about it on our chat, and I think it's a good discussion to have. There aren't always good discussions for MVP. This year is one of them. It's allowed the Lakers to play to their strengths more, protecting the paint. They're staying up on Tyler and Duncan, and they're really crowding everyone else. Jimmy being the biggest threat. It allows the tall guys to stay where they want to stay, which is in the paint more, and it makes it tougher. And Jimmy's shot looks good. His mid-range is good. His free throw looks good. He should be a good three-point shooter. And I think he should be shooting more threes.
I'm looking right now. I'm sorry to be looking at stuff while I talking, but he is a career 33% three-point shooter, with his best year being 38%. But
Yeah,
this year,
as he ages, he
24%.
needs to be doing it more anyway. So maybe he doesn't start it for game 5, but I think it would help them and help their cause. Miami's going to be good next year, and Jimmy should be more willing to shoot it. Let's put it this way: the Lakers are glad he's not. Like, I don't think the Lakers would necessarily be throwing a parade if Jimmy Butler was taking good open threes. He looks good. He has to believe in his shot. All right, so let's talk MVP. I absolutely think going into this game, Davis is the leading candidate because of what he's done defensively, offensively too, but defensively. I understand the case for LeBron. What say you?
I mean, I'm ready to sign off on your Davis program. I'm in. We don't know how it's going to end, but it looks like you'd have
right. It's close. If LeBron has a 38 point, 12 assists, 10 rebound, and AD's not so good, I guess we could go the other way. But as of now, AD deserves it, right?
But thinking about how the voting really happens, right? I know, right?
That's just what I was going to ask you. That was next. Is how the media thinks I don't.
So they're going to be a limited number of journalists. Ordinarily be sitting courtside, but maybe they will send it outside the bubble this year. We'll vote like in the final minutes of the deciding game, and it's kind of an emotional, quick thing, and most people haven't put as much thought into it as you have. And I think in that moment there's going to be some LeBron bias because he's LeBron and he's a legend, and we've all looked stupid many times for betting against LeBron at different times, right? And that's where I start to get at, like, we could do the analysis, but like, I think Jimmy and LeBron have guarded each other a lot and been in each other's faces a lot and play similar positions. And Jimmy's probably been better than LeBron. So that's where, like, if it's Anthony Davis, it's Anthony Davis. But if it's LeBron, then because they've been neck and neck all series. And it's just factually true that, the most valuable player doesn't win every single game. It's possible that, like, Kevin Garnett in Minnesota was unbelievable and just didn't happen to win a lot, right? We've learned this. Like, and then he played worse in Boston and won championships. He didn't get better. He got worse. So to me, like, it's possible that Jimmy Butler has been better than LeBron.
Yes, I think that's a very good point, and it should be most outstanding player anyway. But same thing, I think the regular season should be the valuable word. I think it's just a stupid word for this particular context. But AD to me has been the best two-way player, the most consistent, best, most impactful. Any one of those three guys not in there, their teams aren't winning any games. LeBron, Davis, or Jimmy. But hell, Duncan Robinson's been important for the Heat too. He's not the most valuable player. It'll be interesting. I'm curious what Jarod's going to have to say.
Jarod, can we have a Jarod? Jarod, are you available?
I'd love to hear the LeBron argument because it doesn't work for me. I'd love to hear it though, from someone like Jarod.
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, you're not going to hear it from me, Coach, because I'm not saying LeBron should win it. I'm in agreement with you guys. I think the voters typically, when it comes to Finals MVP, vote and reward offense, right? That's what they think of. Oh, LeBron had triple-double. Like, those, the things that we hear off the top of our heads are all that we remember. And as you know, Coach, half the game is played on the other side of the floor. LeBron's been fine on defense, but AD has been otherworldly on defense.
Unbelievable.
That matters. Like, but we don't know how to quantify the larger voting don't know how to qualify defense. And it's a better story if LeBron wins and MVP. It all fits neatly into a little. We like neat. Like, I think overall people like neat. LeBron winning makes things neat. AD winning, it's a little messy. Because to your point, Henry, Jimmy has been just as good as LeBron, right? Like, if you really look at it, yeah, his team hasn't won, but that's because he doesn't have Anthony Davis. Like,
Right. Put that dude on the Heat, and the Heat are up 3-1. Right. You make me think of two things, Jarod. Henry has, I'm not going to go into the whole philosophy of it, but there are compromised journalists, it's fair to say, that just like there's compromise, there's compromat everywhere. LeBron's going to get some votes. Let me just put it this way. LeBron's going to get some votes from people who know they need to vote for LeBron if they want to be able to continue to interview LeBron.
Correct.
Okay. And unfortunately, because the science
or anyone from Clutch.
Was that? Yes.
Oh, no, that's not true. But you can vote for Anthony Davis. That's true. You can vote for Anthony Davis.
Oh, right. But that's not LeBron. I don't trust that. I know this. I've lost faith. I don't even pay attention to awards other than what I have to do for the job. When Andre Iguodala, I've been on the soapbox for so long. When he won it over Steph Curry, I was so embarrassed as someone who sits in the media world. It just showed me they're not watching the games. Like Andre Iguodala did what thousands of other people on the planet could have done offensively. Defensively is a little different. I get that. Although LeBron's numbers were extraordinary in that series, Iguodala didn't slow LeBron much at all when you look at what that freight train did. But what Steph Curry had to do against the Cavs defense was nothing compared to what Iggy did. And when they gave it to Iggy, I'm like, okay, they're not really paying attention. It's really happening on the court. That being said, it'd be unfortunate because what Davis has done. This is what I was going to ask you. Who do you think LeBron wants to win? I published a piece that everyone edited at True Hoop predicting LeBron was going to make sure AD won the MVP of the regular season. I was wrong. AD didn't deserve it. He deserved to make first team All-League, which I think he did at center. But LeBron had a phenomenal season by leading the league in assists. So I wasn't wrong in that he was making sure he made AD happy. And if AD wins the championship and does win the MVP, AD is still going to be happy. But if AD wins the championship and gets the finals MVP, it's a better chance he's going to say, you know what? It makes him, he'll probably come back either way. He doesn't have to, though. But do you think, I think LeBron wants to win the MVP.
Oh,
I think you're going to see him pad stat in the fourth quarter. What say you guys?
It's, we talked about this before. This is about legacy stuff for LeBron, right? Like he is in the conversation with two other people for the greatest player of all time status, right? So this finals MVPs and these things matter now when you're trying to delineate, was it Kareem? Was it Michael? Was it LeBron? Those things matter in this context. So of course he wants to win it. I think his context in the comments he's making in general about these things are very interesting. Like he's clearly very upset that Giannis won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. Because last night they did Player of the Year, right? Like he made it very clear that I'm not really down with how you guys think about things. So he pays attention and watches who wins what and what the narrative is and what the media new bagel, the new hot thing is. He's always like, I'm here. Don't forget, like I'm still here. And look, coach, you can't play in the NBA without ego. Like that's or else you're finished. Like you can't. So he's gonna have it until the day he walks away. And so he wants to win Finals MVP for sure, but he's going to talk up Anthony Davis as much as possible so that AD realizes, hey, it's not so bad playing with this LeBron guy. I'm all right. I can do this. And then eventually LeBron's going to stop at some point, and then now it becomes Team AD and what the Lakers can do to finish stuff around him. Be very interesting.
What kind of popped in my head is LeBron recently said something like, I don't know how many more times I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
That struck me as ooh, that's going to be in everybody's head when they're voting.
100%.
Oh, so smart. Well, it goes back to your thing. Nothing he says or does isn't well thought of.
Of course.
He's always playing three-dimensional chess, maybe four-dimensional chess. That's a great point, Henry. But Jarod, I'm afraid that we may have just ended our friendship. I have to look into this.
Uh-oh.
I try to become best friends as often as possible, as people know. And I'm loath to end friendships, but I need to hear who the other person in the running for greatest of all time is.
Oh, I said Jordan, Kareem, and LeBron.
Okay, so because if you said Bill Russell wearing your Celtic green shirt you're wearing, that handsome, attractive shirt.
I'm not a Celtics guy.
I'm just saying, no, but you could be a
Bill Jarod, I'm sorry for what's happening right now. You're under attack. I'm seeing you. I'm seeing this.
I love Bill Russell, but when you shoot 41% from the field for your career, and you're 8 times taller and faster than everyone in the league, you're not the world's best player.
No.
But Kareem, I'm a Laker guy. I was when I grew up. But to me, it's Jordan. It used to be Jordan, Magic, Bird, best three of all time. For me, automatic, Jordan, Magic, Bird in that order. LeBron has changed that. But I still have Magic at third. But I can't end our friendship, nor do I want to, with Kareem third. He was extraordinary for sure.
First of all, Caleb, nobody's backpedaling. I'm very clear about who the three greatest people are. Right? Kareem, MJ, LeBron. I am very clear on that. You're not moving me off of that.
Oh, you've got Kareem number one?
I don't know what order they're in, but those are the guys. Those are the only three guys.
You're not stupid. You're not stupid for saying that.
Nobody else is in that conversation. Then we talk about other people after that.
Wait, hold on. Magic isn't in the conversation?
Magic is the next, right underneath them. He's the next guy. He's the next guy. And then if you put Magic there, you got to put Bird there, and then whatever.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Magic made 9 finals.
Listen, I say Magic, yes. I say no to Bird, but I'm gonna get
I do too.
My mentions screaming at me and going crazy. But
I'm just gonna say this, Jarod. You're suspect.
Wow.
Based on what?
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
What about? I mean, honestly, what about Steph?
He's not there yet.
Not there yet.
But no, that's a separate thing. Career accomplishment versus at their prime, in their prime. And honestly, like LeBron, I think Steph, Jordan, Magic, Kareem. I mean, it's your Tim Duncan. To me, Tim Duncan is top 5.
See now, Coach. Now you're talking my language.
Yeah.
And this is not. Listen, R.I.P. to Kobe Bryant. Like, we know all the numbers. Listen, all these people who love to put Kobe in their top 5. You have Kobe in your top 5 and not Duncan. You don't understand basketball at all. Like, literally at all. Because first of all, Duncan was the better player of that generation by every statistical measure. He just was. Like, yeah, Kobe can double pump reverse, scored 81 points. Yeah, I get all that. But like, Duncan's the best. Thank you, Caleb. Was the best player of that era. Very clear.
Kevin Garnett was every bit as good at his peak. He just played on a terrible team. We have to just cope with that. To me, here's my thing. The reason I asked about Steph is, he's just past his peak, I would say now, right? Especially because he's coming off an injury. So what's going to happen now, if it's like every other player in history is, he'll either team up with an amazing player and win some more championships, or he won't, right? But he's not going to prove to us that he's better. He's played his best, as has everyone his age, as has LeBron, like everybody, right? So wait, the shitty tail end of their career is when we're going to decide if they are the best player ever or not? Like, that's so stupid to me. It doesn't matter what's happening now. Like,
right. That's why
what's going to matter.
That's why I always have 2 different arguments. It's peak player, which I actually like that argument better, versus career accomplishment, which is much to do with everything else. I don't agree. And Curry also was an underrated defensive player. His impact on his team in his prime, when he even didn't have the ball, is every bit the same as all these other guys. Their impact, as we've talked about. Yeah. Curry made it 4-on-4. In fact, sometimes Curry made it 4-on-3 when he didn't have the ball. That's never happened before in history.
He's I think, it depends how you measure it. Basically the best plus minus impact of any player of all time.
I'm with you guys I love that, because I always say, who's the greater player or who's the more accomplished player, right? Like, because accomplishments, I can't help it if someone won 5 MVP. Like, that's a lot.
That punishes KG.
Right.
That punishes KG when you look at accomplishment. Same as LeBron. Now it'll be 4-6 in the finals. It punishes him for how amazing, for example, the Spurs were or whatever, and how bad Cleveland has been in some of those series he had. But yeah, there's never been a player. Well, first of all, it couldn't have been, because until the rule changes defensively, guys like Shaq and Duncan in their prime and all the old guys, Chamberlain, Kareem, you couldn't put 2 on them if they didn't have the ball. Right. So Curry's the first ever player we've seen that had 2 guys basically hugging him at times. That's how Draymond Green got those big dunks we've talked about before, when Curry never had the ball. Like, that's never happened before. 4-on-3 makes the freaking Bobcats a contender.
Oh, yeah.
Right? When you can play 4-on-3 a bunch of times, anyone can win those games.
No doubt.
Yes, Curry in his prime was incredible.
The other peak player that we had mentioned, and I think at his peak, he's up there with all those guys, is Kevin Durant. Like, at his peak, like, I mean, it's a 7-foot bucket that can literally score from any level on the court. And can guard. So
we'll do this, I guess, right? Let's make this a whole show. We'll do our homework. We'll come back and, win the off season. We'll prepare and we'll duke it out.
I like it.
Maybe charts. Can we have charts?
Coach is yelling at me. I'm wearing a green shirt.
I was surprised at what happened there.
I like your shirt. Green works for you, buddy.
Do you have a purple shirt? It might be time.
I do.
Week.
I do.
I have to bust out the Lakers. Got some Lakers colors. Where's some Bulls colors? I don't know.
Yeah.
I loved Bird. I hated the Celtics. But Larry Bird's game was so good I couldn't help respect it. Yeah.
All right. So I started the show pissing off legal. I'm not going to end it pissing off legal. So we're going to end a little early. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you, Jarod.
Enjoy the debate tonight. Enjoy the debate.